If you're somebody who gets compliments, you have no idea how important compliments are to people who don't get them very often. If you're a person who people have lots of interest in, you have no concept of what it takes for the person to actually approach you and tell you how they feel. It's all those things together. Obviously, it's that fear, but it's also the anxiety. It's also an embarrassment if things don't turn out okay. It's a whole bunch of things turned into one. But what I would suggest to you is that if you can't face that, if you can't garner up the strength to go forward and face that, then why would the other person feel that you're the right fit for them? In other words, if you can't face this terror, that fear and all that, and you can't stand up against that within yourself, can you really stand up for that other person against the rest of the world? So courage, wisdom, temperance, justice. And if you pursue those 4 things in life, I can't imagine, can you think of any situation in your life that's not made better by wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice? But I imagine we can think of lots of ways our lives are made worse when we lack wisdom and courage and temperance and justice. That's dope. All that's recorded. That'll be a YouTube outtake. So I was asking, is there, we can think of situations in which a person, because we say that sometimes, if you really want it, you'll go get it. But are there times in life when a person won't go get it, even though they actually do want it? So this is funny. I guess in both of those cases, then, what can stop us from going up and saying and telling a person how we feel? Fear of rejection, fear of being weird, fear of it being one-sided and having a completely different perspective of yourself. But there's also something else too, which is like a fear of confronting yourself. If you think about it, if we get down to that under at the very base of things, why is it that kind of a rejection frightens us so much? It doesn't make sense that we should be afraid of it. It makes sense that we could be anxious about it because we don't know how it's going to turn out. But you don't get afraid of applying for a job. You get anxious of it. By having to talk to a person or tell a person how you feel, that can create a real fear. And I've read some things about it. When you look at, it's really a long story, but you can connect that kind of a fear to even the story of Medusa and how Medusa can turn you into stone. What is it about Medusa that turns people into stone? You might say, oh, it's just a story. No, it's that terror of having to confront a person, because it's said that Medusa was supposed to have been beautiful before she became Medusa. And she's cursed. That's why she is the way that she is. It's not her fault. She just is the way that she is. But there are some people who are like that we can't talk to them because they just turn us to stone. And you ask, why is it just petrifies and frees us? I don't know. A lot of times it's because of what we think about ourselves, or because we think wrongly about things. So for example, this is a silly one, but I keep hearing from people how I frighten people and I intimidate people, and people are afraid of me. I have no understanding why. I make fun of myself all the time. I'm always joking around. But I always hear people say oh yeah, it's scary to talk to you. It's hard to talk to you. I guess it has to be, because otherwise so many people wouldn't say it. But what is it about that? What am I going to do? Punch you in the face because you asked me for an extension? I will. But I'm not going to stab you. And if I do, it won't be a vital organ. No, what am I going to? What's the worst that can happen if you talk to me or ask me for something? And it's that unknown. Remember, we populate the unknown with our imaginations. What's going to happen? Something that's far worse than I could possibly imagine, probably. But then when you look at that story of Medusa, there's a much deeper terror that's there. Why? Because what does rejection at the core really say about you? That's the person looking you up and down and saying, no, your genes are not worthy of passing along to the next generation. Yikes. Your bloodline should die with you. And they walk away. That's the real thing underneath it. That's the it. That's the psychological drive. And this is why Medusa, that's why the whole thing, it turns us to stone, because of what it suggests about us as a human being. You know? But when we say things like, a person, if they want to, they'll do it. A person, if they want to make time, they will. If a person wants to do this, they will. No. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. There'll be lots of reasons that people won't, and one of them is because of that. It could be that fear, that challenge. Because what happens if I completely change my lifestyle and I start going to the gym? We all know it's going to hurt at first, but what's going to happen afterwards? Well, what if I try and I fail? What does that say about me? That means that I'm going to be in this situation forever. And there's something that's still there where if I don't try, there's always that little mystery of maybe I could get better. But if I try and I don't get it, well, then the question becomes, well, what does that say about me? It says I'm never going to be good enough. It's that same kind of underlying terror of Medusa. It petrifies us. It turns us to stone to the point that we're not able to act. And then, so that's why, by the way, that is why it's important to talk to your crush and tell them how you feel. Because what you're doing is you're facing something that's terrifying at a level that the person who's being approached can't possibly understand. If you're somebody who gets compliments, you have no idea how important compliments are to people who don't get them very often. If you're a person who people have lots of interest in, you have no concept of what it takes for the person to actually approach you and tell you how they feel. Because it's all those things together. Obviously, it's that fear, but it's also the anxiety. It's also an embarrassment if things don't turn out okay. It's a whole bunch of things turned into one. But what I would suggest to you is that if you can't face that, if you can't garner up the strength to go forward and face that, then why would the other person feel that you're the right fit for them? In other words, if you can't face this terror, that fear, and all that, and you can't stand up against that within yourself, can you really stand up for that other person against the rest of the world? You can't face yourself. Can you really stand by them and protect them from the rest of the world? When things are going down, when things are bad and that other person needs you, they need their person, are you the kind of person who's already exhibited the strength, and the inner strength to be able to stand by them and say, I will be with you during this time? Because if you haven't at least shown that little bit of courage, not even a little bit, that massive amount of courage at the beginning, and this is what Proof Rock struggles with. Proof Rock, does he want a relationship? Probably, yeah. But he also finds himself in that process of making excuses for why he shouldn't. Because what happens if we do go out and we do get married? It's going to end up with a couple fighting before bedtime. It always ends that way. That's a weird thing, Luigi, but you know what, man? You just do you, bro. He's got that Medusa tongue thing going on there. You guys don't see what I see up here. Where was I with Proof Rock? Yeah, he has that terror because of what it might say about him. So he has to make excuses for why he's not going to. And we all do that. We make excuses. I really want this thing. I really want to try this thing. But you know what? No, I don't think I can do it. So now we make up excuses for why we aren't going to do it. And they're never excuses that focus on our self-notice. He's focusing on Proof Rock, on the institution of just relationships themselves. The problem is that relationships always end up like this. They're always going to end up fighting. And so, I guess in all of these things, I'd go back to what Jose was saying, where he asked this question, what's the benefit of any of this? Like when you're looking at, we focus on others, we focus on other people's finances, we focus on their physical health. I guess the question is, what's the benefit? And I guess in order for us to figure out the answers to that question, we have to know what it is that we're focusing on. If I'm focusing on finances, does it do any good for me to compare my finances to somebody else? No. It behooves me to listen to them, to learn from them, maybe to see what they're doing that's successful, to see the mistakes that people have made, and then based off of all of that, I can maybe find myself, becoming, maybe that's the benefit, learning from it, but criticizing it? No. Proof Rock is assumes everybody in the room is criticizing him. So then, of course, that means that he's unable to go forward. So I guess the question is, what's the benefit of that view? It's actually not beneficial. It contrasts. It's contrary to his what he wants to do. Focusing on other, in other words, like the other things from other people. Focusing on the wrong things. And of course, the wrong things, we can figure out what the wrong things are, because the wrong things are the very things that stop us from achieving the benefit. So once we know what the it is, so for example, I guess that's the question. What is it that you want to be in life and to do? Like for example, if you say, I want to be wealthy, okay, then do any of these things benefit you towards becoming wealthy? Does fear benefit you towards becoming wealthy? Does lust benefit you becoming wealthy? No, these are things that actually get in the way of it. They stop you from becoming wealthy. You know, focusing on other people, you know, no, it actually gets in the way. Can you, and it's that focus. Can you see other people though with physical health? Any guys here? You go to the gym and you see some dude and you're like, that dude's jacked. Yeah. I swear you, I'm straight, but I see a lot of dudes at the gym and I'm like, that dude's jacked. What's he doing over there? You're watching him. I'm like, I hope I don't end up on an Instagram video for staring at this dude, but what's he doing for those traps? You know? Yeah, and then you can, but it's learning from it. I'm not looking at him like, whatever. He's not that defined. I'm not doing that. I'm not messing up a machine just to get in the way, just to be a jerk because I'm jealous of him. But anyway, am I even jealous of him? No. Do I want to have like you know traps like that? Do I have? Yeah, but why? What? Is it because I want to look good? No, that ship has sailed. It's because I use my workout for health, but also for the things I do: Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu. So now the question is it beneficial for that? You got to figure out what the its are to see if any of these things that we're focusing on are beneficial. What do you want to be in life? What do you want to do? That's the hard part, because you're going to find that so many of the things that we want to do are going to be contrary to the things that are good for us. I was talking about this last period where you have oftentimes the things that you want are contrary to the things that you need. Like for example, if you're hungry, what do you need? Yeah, food. And what do you need that food to be?
What are you craving?
Yeah, what's that?
What are you craving?
Yeah, what are you craving? That's the confusion. What do you need? You need dried chicken breasts with no seasoning, because you just need protein and nutrients. No, hot Cheetos. Dried chicken breast. Hot Cheetos. Crush up hot Cheetos, put them on chicken breast. Maybe we can get a little bit of alignment there, but when you can finally get yourself to the point where the things that you need are in alignment with the things that you want, now you've really got something. But the things that we want oftentimes are the things that lead us straight to hell. And surprise, surprise, these are the things that interfere with the things that we actually want in life, and of course things that we need. And so I'm asking that question, like, what is it? What is the it? Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, they have a formula, I guess you could say. But I guess if I were to ask the ultimate question we had before, if you had kids today, what would you want for them? Would you want them to just be happy? We talked about that last period. Any of you want to throw your arms around little 5-year-old Joseph Stalin and say, just do what makes you happy? No. And you guys want to throw your arms around little 10-year-old Hitler and go, do what makes you happy? And he says, I want to paint. The world's got different plans for you, kids. But you know, if you can't paint, do what makes you happy after that. No, doing what makes us happy is oftentimes the thing that leads us into harm. The road to hell, isn't that full of all the stuff that makes us happy? So of course it begs that question, does it really make us happy? Eating hot Cheetos, does it make us happy? They're sitting there going, you know, it's so good. The eyes are watering, we're turning red, so good. Yeah, it kind of makes us happy, but fast forward, does it really make us happy? Or does it get in the way of these things? Like I was just thinking about that. If you want to be wealthy, you know, what do hot Cheetos? How do hot Cheetos get in the way of that? Well, how much is a bag of hot Cheetos? Think about how much money you spend on things like that. What would happen if you invested that money instead, little by little? Well, I wouldn't make much money, but you wouldn't risk much money either. You'd be getting a lot of experience at this point. You'll be finding out what works, and it's only costing you $10, $20, $30 at a time to find out what works. Imagine what's going to happen when you've got real money to invest. You have experience, and you have a game plan, and you've got the funds to finance it. It won't even have to be a lot. You'll make it a lot. You'll make it into a lot. And so what is the it? To be a good person, probably. Not just to be happy. Maybe if you can first focus on being a good person and then get your desires and your everything in alignment so that what you want is what you need. What you want is to be a good person. You realize that being a good person happens to be not just the thing that you need, but the thing that the rest of the world needs as well. And now I ask that same question. Do any of these things focus you on being a good person? Do any of these things benefit you on being a good person? Focusing on the finances of others, the physical health of others, focusing on fear and lust, do those benefit you towards being a good person? Or do they actually get in the way of being a good person? And the problem is largely, a lot of times we just don't think about what it is to be a good person. We just kind of assume that we know. But I don't know how we could possibly know without studying it, without finding out. Anybody here know how to fly a plane? That makes sense, right? You just gotta control it, and then there's a thing for a landing gear, and you just gotta go down real slow, right? I could do it. Anybody want to go fly with me? I appreciate you. Everyone, yeah, 2 of you, good. 3 now. All right, we're growing. There's only room for 100. Get in early. Lots of room afterwards. I don't know. Maybe the pilot will let me sit up in the cockpit with them. She's not even paying attention. She would know what I was talking about. Right? Maybe the pilots will let me sit in the cockpit with them. Okay, good, now you know. There's a video, it's funny, shouldn't watch it, but it's hilarious. If you looked up a video called Cockpit Kid on YouTube, don't read it, don't watch it, but it's hilarious. But don't watch Cockpit Kid on YouTube. Well, maybe I shouldn't have told you that, maybe that gets in the way of me being a good person. And so what is it to be a good person as far as Marcus Aurelius is concerned? The Stoics have a way of approaching it. Wisdom, seek wisdom. Do the things that you're doing here, do they interfere with wisdom, or do they benefit you in wisdom? Temperance, not to be too much of anything. Don't be, it's good to have like a righteous anger, but don't be so angry that you're angry at everybody, but also don't be so lax that you let everything slide, even evil. You want to be courageous. You don't want to be reckless. You don't want to have too much courage, but you also don't want to be a coward. So temperance, find out that middle path and take it. So wisdom, temperance, courage. You've got to have the courage, the guts to go forward. You can't be afraid, because if you're afraid, you let other people operate you like a puppet. And finally, justice. And we have to figure out what justice is, of course. So courage, wisdom, temperance, justice. And if you pursue those 4 things in life, I can't imagine, can you think of any situation in your life that's not made better by wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice? But I imagine we can think of lots of ways our lives are made worse when we lack wisdom and courage and temperance and justice. And so the things that interfere with those are exactly the things that don't benefit us. Focusing on things that are not of those. You could focus on wisdom or focus on stupidity. It's other. It's different from what you should be focusing on, from what you say you want, from what you say you need. These things, does wisdom and courage and justice and temperance, are those interfered with by these? I'd say so, probably. And the same with focusing on others. When you focus on others, you can get really wrapped up in, but everybody else is doing it. And what everybody else is doing is not necessarily a good thing. Remember, at one point in this world, everybody else was enslaving people. Remember, at one point, everybody was at war. A few points in our history. What other people do is not necessarily the right thing. In fact, most people don't think about what the right thing is, so it doesn't make sense to follow them. Instead, to examine people who you can look at and say, they have figured out a few things. That person is wise. That person seems to understand some things. I should do what they do. Last period, I'll leave it with this. Before class started, someone came up to me with a camera. That's their first mistake, right? Put a camera in my face. You never know what you're gonna hear after that. And she asked me what my favorite quote was. I thought, oh, that's a hard one to figure out. So I narrowed it down. I said, just one? That's like picking a favorite student or a favorite buffaloing. It's difficult, And she said, well, yeah, like, just pick one. I go, And I said, you have not because you ask not. Or because you ask amiss. You ask for the wrong reasons. You don't have the things that you want because you don't ask for them. And that doesn't mean you wander around and go, can I have, so, please sir, may I have some more money? Please sir, may I please have some opportunity? No, you don't have the things that you want because you don't ask for them. How do you gain wisdom? You ask wise people. How do you become wealthy? Ask wealthy people how they do it. Research how they did it. You can ask them directly, or you can ask them by looking at their life. We don't have things because we don't ask for them, or because we ask for the wrong reasons. I want to be wealthy because I just want people to admire me. Do you think people would admire you if you had wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance? So maybe that's the thing that you're actually after. So figure out what it is, and then figure out the rest of your life if it benefits, if that's actually benefiting you. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? It's the second to last one, man. Last period, I think it was the longest talk I've ever given, and I think this is the second longest one I've given.